Isekai, a genre of anime with the premise of someone being transported or reincarnated into another world. A very simple theme that also comes with its fair share of easy to make stories. It dives into an idea that I believe that most kids growing up, myself included, have imagined at least once in their lifetime. What would it be like to exist in a fantasy setting and be the grand hero of their own epic tale? I think that idea alone is probably why we see so many different takes in the genre in anime. But I didn't use the phrasing easy to make to imply that every isekai is basic, but the theme of reincarnation leaves a lot to open for the imagination. The possibilities are never ending, and an abundance of authors have taken full advantage of the opportunity to create their own spin on the popular genre. However, with most things that become popular, they soon become bloated and oversaturate the market. So much so that the titles of each isekai story gets longer and more goofy for the sake of grabbing someone's attention. So let's sit back, relax, put on your nearest nerve gear or crack open the strange library book you have never read, and let's dive into the various worlds of isekai. Now, one of the many basic tropes of most isekais is the main protagonist is already familiar with the fantasy world in some way, shape, or form. Whether it be through gaming or literature, aka manga, or other mystical fantasy books in the same vein. So they typically have some level of awareness of fictional worlds. The other trope that is prevalent in a lot of isekais is the MC's death by the hands of one of the most feared things in anime, oncoming traffic and a single truck. It's usually the cause of their death because of their last moments in the real world. They are saving a random unsupervised child running in the road, and the MC usually dies in front of the vehicle to save them. Wait, then by that logic, wouldn't that mean that the first few episodes of Yu Yu Hakusho can be an isekai? He did visit another world after his sacrifice. That was a joke. Please put your pitchforks down. Anyway, so long as they are being sent to another world unlike their own, it is deemed as an isekai. So what to do with the story afterwards is where all the different twists to the formula come into play. For example, they could be thrown into a world where they are the most busted and overpowered character to exist, gaining an immediate following, develop a harem, party members, because it's rare to see any of them score or at least pick one. Or, you read these guys. Meet Natsuki Subaru. He gets transported into another world while simply trying to rub the tiredness from his eyes, only to get suddenly thrown into a new world, full of magic, curses, and a lot of agonizing deaths that would make Mortal Kombat's fatalities blush. Though I highly recommend this show, I figured I'd just give you that warning in case you don't do well with blood and violence. Speaking of rather unfortunate isekai protagonists, now for me, from Rising of the Shield Hero, upon his very arrival got royally screwed over.
Pun entirely intended.
He gets robbed, betrayed, marked as a criminal, and outcasted by the entire kingdom. And that's just episode 1. So there's 2 examples of making the isekai genre more interesting and able to stand out from the immense and ever-growing market it has. But let's get into the more bizarre ideas, which is what initially led me to saying that making a plot for these things is becoming so much easier. Real quick, I'd like to mention that all the titles I'm about to name are indeed real, and a good amount of them many people already know about. I'll simply be using them as examples to show just how never-ending the isekai rabbit hole truly is. First up on the roster, that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Now, to give credit where credit is due, I have seen and heard great things about this series, whether it be from the light novel or the anime adaptation itself. But trust me when I say that I was definitely skeptical of the concept initially, but seeing how slimes are a very common, low-level enemy in several JRPGs, a story about a slime rising in power definitely deserves a look at. It still sits on my forever-growing watch list, so eventually I'll give it a proper watch. In the meantime, I will cut this anime a break for having a strange title, but a legitimately good twist to the genre. But this right here is a hard pass. Do you love your mother and her 2-hit multi-targeted attacks? Firstly, what is that title? Why is this isekai trying to bring my mother into this? Also, 2-hit multi-targeted attacks? That just sounds like a unnecessarily long way of saying she can do a basic combo. I'm sure if I stuck around for longer than 1.5 episodes, I'd find that it's more in depth than it sounds. And despite how much I'm bashing on this show, I will admit the concept of being isekai'd into another world with your mother sounds funny, but it also kind of defeats the whole escapism fantasy that most anime of the genre try to provide the viewer. The whole point of indulging in these fantasy RPG worlds is to get away from day-to-day life at home. Not necessarily because the household they previously lived in was bad, but just for a change of pace. Plus, a lot of teens already get upset when their parents interrupt their gaming sessions, so to see an anime about a teen and his admittedly caring mother be pulled into the same RPG setting kind of gives a vibe of, no matter what, you cannot outrun your parents. Even if you get teleported into Dragon Quest, you still have chores to do, you know what I mean? But let's back off on that series and instead rage on about another bizarre isekai, one that follows a formula I'm not too keen on when it comes to these. In another world with my smartphone. Here's my paraphrased version of the plot. Kid dies, talks to God, asks to bring his smartphone to his next life. God says yes. Gives kid busted magic abilities, develops generic harem. MC looks like Kirito, blah blah blah, you've all heard it before. Pardon my lack of enthusiasm with this show, but even the main character doesn't seem to get all that excited about his predicament from what I recall. Though do take that statement with a grain of salt, as it has been quite a while since I dropped it and I didn't get any further than 3 episodes. Instead, I watched another video talking about the anime in more detail, and I think my interest finally dropped once I tried to watch the show for myself and witness all the flaws firsthand. I get that a lot of these power fantasy stories typically make the main characters simple, but they have to be relatable for the sake of being a self-insert role for the viewer. That doesn't mean they have to be drier than burnt toast, but a blank and a slate without completely forgetting to make them their own character. But I've been harsh enough on that show, and we'll simply move on. The next one I'm about to mention does not have an anime, or at least not yet. Give it some time, I'm sure it'll happen. But I know the least about it as far as its actual quality, but the title was funny, so consider this like an honorable mention in a way. Reborn as a vending machine, I now wander the dungeon. Remember my disclaimer of all of these being real? That includes this ridiculously titled entry. If given the opportunity, I'd probably actually read it, because based on the cover, it looks like the MC has a party member that helps them travel around. But how and what exactly can they contribute being a vending machine in the fantasy world? It sparked enough curiosity to check out, but I can always wait for it in anime to get announced for it instead. I see it so often on the shelf that bam, that I have a good feeling its time will come soon, seeing how many times this happened before. And that was the wondrous world of Isekai. A lot of them do seem incredibly bizarre when you look at them at face value, and though that may be true for some of the show's actual quality, the amount of potential certain series have been able to uncover is really impressive. Writing stories like this already has some aggressive competition, but that doesn't mean it's impossible to give it a shot. I mean, come on, I have an isekai manga right now called Reborn as a Polar Bear, The Legend of How I Became a Forest Guardian. The moment you start to question could it possibly get weirder is the exact moment an author somewhere is ready with their story to try and top it. So never feel like they are impossible to write, because you can write an isekai about literally anything. My friends from college and I joke about made up isekai plots all the time. Like, what if a DoorDash driver got sent to a new world and had to deliver food to various fantasy kingdoms? The fact that it could be a reality if written down, given a bit more depth, knowing it'll be able to proudly sit with the other isekai stories is the most beautiful part about it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. It really means a lot. Also follow my other social medias in the description below. Anyways, this has been Project Evidence X, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace, love, and dove, and have a blessed day.